All right, good morning. Welcome in for another Friday safety focus of the week. Today is March 7th. Don't forget to spring ahead on Sunday.
Yep.
Clocks move forward. So, um, this week, code of conduct is to maintain respectful behavior when one is working, driving a company vehicle, or wearing the company logo. You and we are always representing this company. Anything to add,
That's
Ben?
the long one. Yeah, be practice courtesy and alignment, be positive and show regard for others. It's a good one. There's a lot of good stuff in here.
Quick little safety news. We did have to do a readjustment or adjustment, I should say, to our recordable injury date. Our slip and fall that happened early February turned into an OSHA recordable.
Yeah.
So the day count is 30. So that was our first OSHA recordable of the 2025 year. So um, we're still not out of the slippery conditions. It's going to be a lot of mud, freezing ice, thaw, ice again over the next, this whole month. So let's do our part to eliminate ice, to watch out where we're walking, to establish those good working conditions and working surfaces, especially if when you're going back and forth from a trench to a parking lot or to access your work site. Let's just make it clear of debris and tripping hazards as best we can to eliminate those slip and fall injuries that we've been seeing this time of year. 7 from our last first aid and 12 from our last vehicle incident. Anything to add on that, Tom?
Last year we had a lot of incidents because of the mud. So please, please, please be careful how you're walking in the mud. I know it's easy to get complacent when you've been used to walking on ice and snow all year and you finally have something to walk on that isn't ice and snow. But just be extra careful.
Yeah, last year we had or I think it was 2 years ago, walking down an embankment on like a deep drainage project, slip and fall and jam the shoulder. It still hasn't been resolved yet.
Yep.
This week we're going to kind of talk about human factors on the behavior-based safety approach kind of topics here. These four are the kind of leading indicators for unsafe acts: complacency, distraction, overconfidence, and ignorance, and impulsive behaviors. We're going to kind of highlight each one. Think about it. Think about how maybe you act out there in the field, and think about if you kind of see yourself doing these from time to time. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it's something that maybe you can work on this year and figure out how to kind of be a little bit more aligned and identify that these are unsafe acts, and how you can kind of catch yourself from eliminating that type of behavior down the road. Because the graph that we're going to show at the end, the more unsafe behaviors that we do, or these unsafe kind of decisions that we do, are the really leading indicators of having those near misses, having those incidents that occur, and then really eliminating that. The worst case scenario is that fatality. So complacency again, it's when we kind of get blinded out there. Our head's kind of in the sand. We don't really address an unsafe condition, or we see an unsafe act and we don't really address it. We do something many times, like jumping in an unsafe excavation, nothing happens. That's those kind of behaviors are it's that kind of, you're gambling with a hazard and it just hasn't bit you yet. So be aware, stay ready, look for the problems. The more that you're engaged in the operation, the more that you're communicating with your fellow coworkers in the operation, is the best way that you can eliminate complacency. The more communication that we're doing out there, the better we'll have to eliminate unsafe conditions and unsafe acts. So try to take corrective actions to maintain that safe work environment. And the best way to do it is that JHA first thing in the morning when we're sitting around, either fueling up equipment or kind of establishing the day, what we're going to do for the day. Over communicate. That's a perfect time to over communicate for the job, to really making sure and double check that everybody's aware of the plan and the hazards that we're going to encounter that day, so we can work safe and go home safe and sound each and every day. Another one, distractions. It's easy for us, especially when we're driving. All the distractions, we can easily kind of tune your brain out and think about other things. That's when you're distracted. When you're trying to multitask on a task, you're distracted. Our brains are really can only do one thing at a time well. So when we're trying to multitask and do many things at once, we're doing things at half capacity. So try to keep your head in the game, focus in on the task that whatever you're doing. If it's operating equipment, if it's driving the vehicle, if it's installing a piece of pipe or a water break, whatever it may be. But try to eliminate those distractions as best you can. I know that a lot of phone calls come in during the day, each and every time. Try to, again, communicate with your operator, or if it's your operating equipment, communicate, hey, I have to take this call. This is an important call. Or, silence it until break time, lunchtime, just so we're not being distracted out there, because you see a lot of accidents out there, especially on the road with distracted. I know Tom talked about a lot of that last week, safety topic. But same thing, walking around job sites or visitors on job sites. Watch out for the individuals that may be distracted and bring it to their attention. Hey, you're distracted. You're being a little unsafe on the job here. Go back to the trailer, get what you need to do, and then come back with your head in the game. Because, all of our job sites, there's kind of three-dimensional hazards. A lot of these struck by hazards, things are back and things are moving around. There's a lot of potential to get run over on a lot of these job sites. The third one here is overconfidence and ignorance. So don't get blinded by your confidence. When we get really good at tasks, it's easy to lose respectful for the job site hazards and what exists, especially if you get away with, again, kind of like with that complacency side of it, these kind of go hand in hand. Jumping in unsafe excavation or running a defective piece of equipment, nothing has happened yet, and you're not bringing it to anybody's attention. Those types of behaviors, again, we're gambling. Something's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So we need to kind of do that safety stand down, reestablish a plan, figure out how we're going to move forward, so we're not taking on unnecessary risks. And the last one, and we haven't really talked a whole lot about it, but it's going to be a big emphasis for us really moving forward, is what we mostly see a lot of our accidents and injuries that occur. It's the impulsive behaviors. Some of our worst claims, it's because we're impulsively doing something really without thinking about it. It's an unplanned and hasty actions we're not thinking about or considering possible consequences of our actions. We're just blindly doing something without thinking, or we're not engaging our mindset before we get in a situation. Hopefully we're not willfully doing something wrong. It's just it's lack of training, lack of experience, lack of self-control. So we act on these immediate desires to just get the job done, and we're putting ourselves in some very dangerous situations. This doesn't happen all that much, but we do see it from time to time, and those are usually our worst accidents. You can see it in this photo here. This isn't us, but it's a good example of an impulsive behavior. They're just trying to get this pipe in the ground. You get an extremely dangerous situation there. Easily cave in that could happen. And again, that's kind of when we flip our priorities. It's safety third, the safety third mindset, where you're not really looking out for yourself, your fellow coworkers, and all you're focused on is getting the job done. So this is the kind of tried and true safety triangle that we hopefully have all seen now. We talk about in this safety orientations. We talk a lot of it during the year. But again, it's kind of true and true. For every one fatality, there's about 3,000 unsafe acts or unsafe behaviors being conducted. So the more at risk you are with your decision making of doing kind of dangerous things and not working towards a good safety mindset and good safe behaviors, you're going to have those near misses. You're going to have those recordable injuries, and then there's that potential for a death. So the less we can be out or make those decisions out there where we're working safe and we're over communicating, we're checking in, and we're eliminating those hazards through not having these types of behaviors, we're going to hopefully shrink that, but that percentage of that one major injury that it can occur. And that's kind of the overall theme of behavior-based safety, is in getting employees engaged, trying to really eliminate those unsafe behaviors that we just talked about. And if we can kind of do that each and every day, we can then really expand our recordable incidents for that, 365-day window that that is our goal at the safety department. Hopefully we can go a whole calendar year without a recordable injury. And we've been close from time to time, but it's always that one little behavior here and there that we just can't get quite aligned with. We might flip a priority from time to time. But hopefully we can all come together now that we're all employee owners, that the better of the company is to work safe, to eliminate those unsafe acts and those unsafe conditions. So try to work together today, and each and every day, and remind each other when you see something that might be a little bit dangerous or someone might not be considering something, bring it to their attention. And then also thank them, hopefully coming back. It's just like, yeah, you're right. I was being impulsive there. I needed to make sure my priorities are in order. Anything to add, Tom?
Just what I tell all the people when they start is, let's say there's 200 of us and you do one unsafe act a day. So let's use texting and driving, for example. You do that once a day, and everybody else in the company does that once a day. That's 200 times a day that's happening. That's 1,000 times a week, 4,000 times a month that's happening. Can you do that activity 4,000 times or 1,000 times or 200 times without an incident? And the answer is probably no with a lot of those things. So even if you're not the one that has the incident because of it, if you're contributing to those statistics, you're not helping us out when it comes to keeping everybody safe and doing the right thing.
Yeah, well said. Anything to add, Ben?
Yeah. I like to add a couple to that always. One of them is another thing I call a hazardous attitude of anti-authority, which is the people that aren't aligned with the plan or the program that we're trying to do here, and that anti-authority hazardous attitude contributes to things going wrong. On the other end of the spectrum is a hazardous attitude that a lot of people don't think about, but it's resignation, that I can't make a difference. It's not going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it. And especially when we add a lot of new people to the team, a lot of times they're going to be quieter and not say things. And what we need to do is reinforce the fact that everybody can make a difference. And usually, how many of us have been out there and said, boy, this doesn't seem good, and then we get bit when something happens, and we say, yep, I knew that was going to happen. So the resignation, we need to reinforce good listening with each other, and not shut each other down when we have a thought or an idea, and at least hear people out so that people don't get resigned to that there's nothing that they can do. So I like to add those in there. Those are some of the ones that we study in aviation, and we do talk about the ones that Matt talked about, but we also add a couple in there because when you're flying an airplane, it's the same thing. You can get into trouble really quick, and someone can get hurt or killed. So that's the long answer to the short question. Do you have anything to add? Right?
No, that was good, Ben. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, let me see if I can get this shared. All right, see my email or see my screen?
We got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we talked about human factors. For announcements, on March 28th, we're going to have our annual 2020, it's going to be our 2025 construction season kickoff. And in past years, we've had it for a select group because we didn't think we could fit everybody in the same room, but we ended up a lot of times with all our foremen and leaders. Being an ESOP, this year we decided to invite everyone. So on March 28th at noon, we're going to have lunch for everybody, so you don't have to pig out before you get there. We're all going to have a company-wide kickoff meeting. We'll have a program that lasts a couple hours. Whoops, hold on. I gotta get rid of this off my screen. I don't know if you can see that, but it's reminding me of an appointment I have coming up. All employees are invited and expected to attend. It's going to be right over here at 99, right across from our 98 office in the shop, and we're going to set it up similar to what we did at the Christmas party. Everyone's invited and expected to attend. So we'll be announcing that every week here until that the day of the 28th. Also remember that our insurance cards are in. It's March 7th, so I think we've got to have them in the cars. Yeah, we got to have them in the cards as of March 1st, so we're 7 days overdue if they're not in the vehicle. There's some on the front desk here at 98, Chico and Pat. They also have them, and there's some in Scott Burns' office. Make sure that your vehicle has one of those in there. Morgan Stanley is here today. There may be a few appointments left. You can contact Melanie Bennett to see if there's any slots available. If anyone has the chance this morning to go up and talk about their 401k account, I think that would be a great thing if you do have time. Not sure, but usually she has 1 or 2 slots left. We've had 7 ESOP informational meetings. They've been very successful. We probably have 60 to 80 people that have attended. It's very informative. We had 18 in our last meeting a couple days ago. Our next meeting is going to be March 12th, which is next Wednesday from 2 to 3. Contact Erin. Her contact information is on here, and let her know if you want to attend. I think it's good for all of us to be involved and engaged and understand the CSOP that we have. We've got some... Looks like Walter's going to be working a lot now. Walter Lotazars has 2 new baby girls. Katie and Mary were born on February 7th, so a month ago. They're probably already growing. So if he's looking tired these days, we can understand why. Congratulations, Walter. We've got a new employee started this week. Some of us know him, Eric Chevalier. He's working with the heavy civil crew. He's an operator. Welcome, Eric. He is here this morning. I saw him. And this week we also have, whoops, I've got to get this open again. We've got the project of the week. And it's going to be presented by Phil, but I've got to check to see if we have one more announcement here first. Let's see. Hey, McKinney, are you on?
I'm on. Yeah.
Hey, did we make that announcement this morning? Did the guys get together?
If I can. Is that good?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. All right. Hey, everybody. So, hey, we've got a big change coming with this year, starting today with the way we dispatch. We've been trying to figure out a way that we can be more effective with fleet management, dispatch, trucks, moves, and everything else that goes into fleet management aside from repair and maintenance, all of which has fallen on Scott Burns for almost 20 years now. And what we came up with is splitting those responsibilities between Scott and Brian. John Sr. is going to step up and run low bed, and Brian is going to take on about half of that role. So we're splitting it in two. So the reason why, it's a ton of work, and splitting it up, I think, will make us more effective and result in a higher level of service to our projects, our crews, and all of our employees. I think it'll be more effective. So how are we splitting it up? Good question. Essentially, without getting into all the details, and there are a lot of details, but Brian's going to be in charge of moves. That's equipment, that's anything on a tractor trailer. He's going to be in charge of moves. He's going to be in charge of the yard. He's also going to oversee GPS system, do site visits, manage our whole rental fleet, documenting equipment inbound and outbound. He's going to drive truck and operate as a backup when we have absences or the need to put him in a truck or a piece of equipment. So what's that leave Scott with? That Scott's going to do trucks. That's sub trucks. That's ECI dump trucks. He's also going to continue to oversee River Road and Burrard. He's going to monitor all the fuel. He's going to stay involved in really spearheading new equipment acquisition as well as salvage of old equipment. He's still going to do registration, IFTA, and managing aggregate stockpiles and sales and salvage operation, topsoil production. So how does this affect you? If you're running a job, you call Brian for moves, you call Scott for trucks. It could be 2 phone calls. Sometimes they're separate phone calls anyway. We're doing this for 3 months as a trial period. I think it's going to work really well, but we want feedback. So give Scott feedback, give Brian feedback, let them know what works for you better. Let them know what's not working better, what works worse. Give them good feedback, give them bad feedback, give me feedback, and let's see how this goes. Any questions? You can come see me after the meeting if you'd like, and we can talk about it in more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Well presented, and we may be able to get maybe even an email out globally later that kind of just a summary for everyone in case you guys still have questions. But I'll leave that to Ben if he's able to do that.
I can.
And I also wanted to say that, when Scott Burns took that time off, Brian stepped up and he did the whole job while Burns was gone, and he did a great job. And so I think that this is a good positive thing for us as a company to build one of our most important functions into a team rather than just putting it all onto one position. And as we know, Scott Burns, you evolved into this position over a long period of time, and you keep talking about retiring in several years. So when you do, what we don't want to do is overwhelm someone else and try to hire someone to do what you've evolved into being able to do over a long period of time, and then being stuck without a dispatcher, or overwhelm Brian and have him say, I'm not doing this whole job. So I think this is very positive. I'm excited about it, and I want everybody to be aligned with it. Give the feedback and give those guys some kudos, because they've both been spending a lot of energy in the last couple weeks. Change is hard, and between the conversations they've had with each other and McKinney, they've come to a good alignment, and I think it's going to be awesome. So thanks, Ben. Okay, hey Phil, do you want me to share my version, or do you want to share yours?
No, if you could share yours, you had it all kind of dialed in with the Zoom and everything.
I did. Can you see it?
Yes.
I tried to get it, so I try to get them so they'll fit. So thank you for doing this, Phil. Phil's a repeat presenter, and we want to thank him for that, because he does a good job at putting these things together. I'm trying to let these guys know ahead of time nowadays rather than the last minute. But thanks, Phil. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I've been told to keep these a little shorter, so much like this project, this one will be short and sweet. This project started in 2002, had some delays that were not our fault, so we finally did it this spring in 2005. So as part of ECI's efforts at the Ethan Allen fuel point and loading dock relocation project, 2 large concrete fuel tanks had to be relocated from the existing fuel station to the new one about a quarter mile across the base. The tank on the right was a 1,000-gallon tank with an empty weight of 12,000 pounds, and the tank on the left was an 8,000-gallon tank with an empty weight of 72,000 pounds. Weight was not the only factor that made this an interesting exercise in project engineering. Both buildings had only 44 inches of headroom, while most trailer decks measure around 36 inches from the ground. And although a lowboy would have been the preferred method of transportation, there wasn't enough room behind the behind the larger unit to accommodate those rear axles. So we had to figure out a way to get these out of the building, lifting them from underneath. And you can see the small tank's out of the way already. We'll get back to that later. And behind the tank, there just wasn't room for all those axles. So went there with a small team. The tank sat only 6 inches off the fueling station floor, which is far too small for most beams and jacks. So we used an iterative jacking process, and the team spent the first day raising the tank about 3.5 inches to a total height of 9.5 inches off the ground. The jacks are small, so their stroke height was small, and we had to raise them about 1/4 inch at a time. So that was a full day process where the guys got those tanks high enough off the ground so we can get the beams and jacks underneath. Once the tanks were about 9.5 inches off the ground, we had enough room to use 6 15,000-pound capacity toe jacks and 3 tube sections of steel. They were 6x6, 3/8 wall thickness. The toe jacks were sourced from Buckingham Structural Moving, which is the same company that helped us move that bridge in Royalton. When we when we sourced those jacks, we hadn't worked with them before, and it was funny that now we moved a bridge with them, and
That's
we're still trying to get our hands on these jacks. So up top you can see the kind of the plan view, and down below is in actuality
Yep.
some
There's
blocking
the
up
plan. Yep.
up on top to keep the jacks from tipping inward with the weight, and then the beam underneath to help the jacks be spread out far enough so a trailer could get underneath. And so if you scroll down a little bit, Mr. Dow,
Yep.
there it is in actuality. And then the tanks started to come off the ground.
Wow.
So the toe jacks, they lift from the bottom, allowing you to, have a limited amount of space. It's a unified jacking system, and the benefit of that is that it provides a consistent flow rate across all 6 jacks. That means the jacks travel travel uniformly, regardless of the weight distribution and pressures. It's very different than the jacks that we have, and it's a lot simpler of a process with a single operator on the jack and a readout panel. There's the tank coming up slowly, a couple feet off the ground at this point, and aside from the motor running on the pump, you really don't hear a thing. It's surprisingly quiet as that comes off the ground. And then
how much is that thing weigh, Phil? 72,000, you said?
Yeah, it was 72,000 pounds.
Wow.
Yep.
Holy cow.
And there you can see John, he did an excellent job. We used spotters on all corners and at the top of the tank just to make sure we didn't miss anything when we were raising it. And we were able to, there's John backing underneath the tank, and which was then lowered down onto his landall.
Wow.
We did some calculations on the axles, the spacing, and took into account that this was a short move, so not an ideal load for this trailer, but we had some
cool.
considerations there. So
That's awesome.
there's
Fit
the
right
tank
under
about as high as it would go. And then there's the tank sitting on the back of the trailer. And that was sure was a lot of weight. It wasn't easy for John to maneuver around. We had had quite the swing radius.
Yeah, and the wheels are way in the back. I see.
Mhm.
Yep, tucked under. Holy cow.
So we got to the new location, and John had to back that trailer within 24 inches of new building walls. They wanted it tight to one side, which took a couple iterations back and forth. And then the whole process was reversed, and the tank was lowered back down. So you got Nick Peck and Jacob back there setting the jacks up, Matt Protko with a level, just making sure everything was coming down even. And then, so
Wow.
that tank was in place. And then you've got the smaller tank, which was just 12,000 pounds. We thought it was 16 initially, but it wasn't. So was just light enough to be relocated with a 624. And although the loader was a little light on the rear wheels, Nick was able to maneuver it and push the tank, and we were able to get that smaller tank situated right tight to the larger tank in the new building. And there's part of the team at the bottom with the new tanks and the new buildings. So
Proud team members.
Yes.
Awesome. That was a cool project. It's like they pick houses with those type of systems.
Exactly. Yep. They brought a very experienced guy along, gave us some pointers, and generally went pretty smooth.
So you know what's going to happen now, Phil? When the concrete guys get one of those jobs to bid to jack a house so they can put a new foundation under it, they're going to be coming to you wondering if we can do it.
We can always.
All right, Marty, you and Ronnie heard that, and Todd. All right. Thanks, Phil.
There's Scott in his new role. One of the things Ben didn't mention, he's going to be doing groundskeeping around the property. So if you see him out back with a weed whacker, just let him know he's doing a good job. It's one of his new roles.
Thank you, Phil. I do have proof. Phil didn't believe that he could do it, and I found a picture from the early 90s, and Phil believes me now. So Mr. Burns is a good landscaper. Well, it looks like that was at the beginning of the work. It came out really nice when he was done.
That's right.
So
It's a work in progress.
The spotlight's on you today, Scott. I've got and look at his mullet. If anybody knows what that is, that was his special hairdo when he had hair.
Gave me a hard time about my haircut yesterday.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Scott. I couldn't resist. I'll turn it back over to the safety guys.
Right at 7 o'clock. Nice job today, everybody. If you watch
That
the
was the
group
goal.
setting, please send over your attendance in the group so we can capture attendance. Let's have a safe day. Let's have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day, everybody.
Have a good weekend.